If a man was successful in the late 1500s, it was likely he would want to have his wealth put to greater good, perhaps making a sizable donation to a cause that met his wishes. No doubt boost his standing in the community, especially amongst those of similar financial means. Whether he chose to have a wing of a church added, in some instances, a steeple, or even an entire building, he would probably be happy to see his name remembered in some way. Often this would mean immortalised in stone or glass, stained glass windows for instance. Was this true of John Whitgift? Was he concerned more for how good he might have looked, or was he displaying his charitable, benevolent side, wishing to share his good fortune with those who meant most to him? I'd really like to think so. Whitgift was considered a man of principle, who stood by his beliefs, had time for those who worked for him, his close friends and the elderly that he saw every day of his life. He would have seen poverty in London when he went to stay with his aunt. He had also been drawn by the difficulties faced by his father when the family business suffered financial loss. He would hear or even witness the struggles of the farmers, their workers, when the harvests were poor. This was over 2 consecutive years, where the winter and spring was particularly harsh and crops failed. He was concerned for their welfare as well as that of his own workers. The Hospital of the Holy Trinity would include room for the retired staff of John Whitgift when the time came. There was no record of a school in Croydon between 1393 and 1582, perhaps in part due to the dissolution of the monasteries and chantries at the Reformation. A number of grammar schools were closed. Whitgift had seen for himself as Archbishop of Canterbury charitable institutions. He had wished to view the schools and hospitals that were of interest. We know that he visited Eastbridge Hospital, Canterbury, as he had revised the statutes of the establishment. Perhaps his keen interest led him to build the Hospital of the Holy Trinity in Croydon. At Eastbridge, he provided for a schoolmaster to teach 20 poor children to read and write. With Whitgift's keenness at providing for a good standard of education, no doubt he wanted to give Croydon something that he and the town would ultimately be very proud of. There was, of course, many successful men who had chosen to spend their wealth in the way that Whitgift did, so he was not entirely alone in his altruism. Whitgift had once said, "It is much safer for a man to do good and charitable deeds by himself, while he liveth, than to hope that others will do the same for him after his death."